Do you work with highly analytical, logical, very intelligent type of clients who want your help with hypnotherapy, but you're finding that some of the techniques that you're using aren't really a great fit for them? Like a lot of them, you have this deep feeling that they're not going to do very well with the traveling down the stairs or imagining there's a timeline and the guided visualization metaphorical stuff. You have this like icky feeling about doing this for these clients because you know that it's just not a job for them. So this was how I effectively worked with these clients and helped them get breakthroughs within 20 minutes, even the really talkative ADHD type clients. And so I know that you've been trained traditionally in hypnosis methods, it's a lot of relaxation, a lot of imagination. But for a lot of these analytical clients, it's going to be very hard for them, or it's not going to be a perfect match based on their brains. As someone who's highly analogical and analytical, and I actually have very hard trouble visualizing the traditional methods, hypnosis and NLP, were very, very difficult for me to grasp. That's why my results were kind of good, but not as good as no longer relying on them. And this was what I did. When you have clients who are very analytical and very intelligence based, you want to get them off of that, right? Like a lot of clients can rationalize and they're very self-aware with regards to what they feel and how this what thing that happened to me made sense, but obviously they're still stuck where they are. Right, so there's something needs to change with regards to the approach that they're using. And with a very highly aware analytical intelligent client, you want to get them out of that analysis, right? So you want to then ask them something else that is very, very unconscious. Inside the neurosynchronic questioning trainings, we focus on setting up a filtration system within the practitioner to filter out what is conscious versus unconscious information. The intellectualization, the analysis, the logic, those are conscious shit, right? And so we even say that 95% of our what our clients express to us, we ignore because that's conscious shit, right? There's a time and place for the conscious mind. We're not saying that it's not important. It is at the end. But if you want to get the breakthrough within 20 minutes, you want to focus on unconscious information because that's where the power and the solution of the problem truly lies. And so when you are talking to a client, you want to focus on unconscious information. So based on what you've learned, what are unconscious information, right? There is a whole list. There's actually three main unconscious expression things to look out for inside the neuropsychological questioning trainings. But for you, what did you learn? Common one is emotion, right? Emotions are unconscious. It is driven by unconscious processes of the nervous system based on our patterns. And so when a client is talking to you, and say whether they're talking intellectually, just intellectually about feeling guilt, for example, maybe they're a mom and they're feeling mom guilt and they want to level up in their career, but they have this mom guilt of potentially not spending time with their family, right? And you're noticing that they are very distressed about the mom guilt, but they're rationalizing and they're like, yeah, I know, but like there's this conflict. And so how you want to stop the conscious blabbering or the conscious fluff, as we call it, is by focusing their attention on something unconscious, which is the guilt, and using your line of questioning to focus and expand on the guilt. So ask your clients about the guilt itself, not just like consciously and how they feel guilty with their children, but the experience of guilt. Like, how do they know they're guilty? What does it feel like when they're guilty? Do they feel it in their bodies? Are they expressing that? How do they act when they feel guilty versus not guilty? Just really taking information out and gathering data and expanding their experience of guilt. And when you do this right, when you get your questioning right, it is going to really stop them in their tracks because it's getting them to explain consciously what is unconscious. That feeling of guilt, we know that feeling. If I were to ask you right now to describe what it feels like to be guilty, you're going to take your time to think about it, right? What does it feel like to be guilty? In your mind, you are going through that. You're trying to explain something unconscious. And that, in and of itself, how was that for you when I asked you that question? A lot of people would have gone into some sort of trance just thinking about it. Like, what does guilt feel like to you? How do you know that you're guilty? So, just asking your questions that way is going to be a huge, tremendously helpful thing for your analytical clients to get them to stop blabbering and actually start getting deep into unconscious territory, which we know if you get into unconscious territory, that's where you'll have the root of the problem. That is when the discussion will steer away from the conscious things like the kids, and instead you are going to help your clients to process their internal experience of the guilt, to know what their patterns are with regards to feeling guilty, so that they can then realize and find the best solution for them without you needing to suggest or say anything. This type of conversation is a lot more powerful, don't you think? And so by doing that, just by focusing your attention and your client's attention actually on the unconscious expression by asking them expansive questions with regards to the guilt, that is just one, emotions are just one unconscious expression. By doing that repeatedly again and again and again in your session, that is how you're going to stop your clients to overly analyze and intellectualize and instead experience the guilt, so that within it they'll find their own answers. Within it, they'll process what they need to process in order to let go of that guilt or work with the guilt, whatever it is that they need. And then that's how your transformations are going to be lasting. This is how you're going to reduce the amount of sessions, because you can get this done once you get really good. A lot of the times you can do this within just minutes in your sessions, in less than an hour, if you know the skill to work on. And this is 100 hours inside the hypnotic questioning trainings. This is what the hypnotherapists and coaches learn to be really, really good at starting to have that skill of filtering what information is conscious versus unconscious. Because once you have this, you will have a superpower that not a lot of hypnotherapists and coaches have, because the skill is not really taught in traditional trainings. It's just taught in the hypnotic questioning world. And so try this out. Really focus on your client. Don't care about the cue cards. Don't care about the script or the NLP methods. Pick one client, and then an analytical client, and then just have fun with them and say, yeah, I just want to ask you questions today. And when they talk about an emotion, focus their attention on that. Ask them about the emotion itself and how they are experiencing it, and watch your sessions become a lot more significant, life-changing, transformational. And, the more you focus on the other things like the conscious love and just getting them to respond to the techniques that the more they'll resist, the slower your sessions, the more frustrated they are, and we start to doubt ourselves, which isn't a good thing. So try this out. Let me know how that goes, and I will see you around.